How you doing?
Good, man. How you doing?
Good, good. I'm excited to chat with you today.
I'm excited too, man.
Yeah. Before we get into the whole conversation, I just wanted our viewers and the audience to know a bit of you and who you are. So today we have Bora, born in the Congo, raised in Uganda, and now a pillar of San Diego. Bora is the man behind Go Poster, Quick Bites Cafe, and Papaleko Kensington. But beyond these storefronts, he's a husband, a father of two, and an associate pastor of Coastal Line Community Church. He's a man who turned the immigrant hustle into a kingdom mission. This is Bora, sitting in front of me today. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for the generous introduction.
Well, that was generous. You think?
I think so.
Well, I did my job well then. Anyway, so let's talk about, how it all started, which is a place called Goma in Congo. So you were born in Goma, a place that has seen so much conflict.
Yes.
Do you have any specific memory of the African spirit your parents kept alive when you had to move from Congo to Uganda at just 9 years old?
There's a lot of, I would say, memories that I have. Not a lot. At 9 years old, you don't have a lot of memories, but I have a few memories that I have from Goma. First of all, the one that stands out the most is the loss of my father. I lost my dad when I was only 7. So that's 2 years before we moved. So I still have that memory it's ached in my mind. And so remembering that and having that in my mind and how that shaped me and knowing that I would grow up without a dad, that's a memory that I would not forget for sure. So I remember that, but also in Goma, there is volcano. I don't know if you know about that. So volcano it comes from a mountain. The lava that comes down the mountain comes down and burns an entire city. It can burn an entire city. We experienced that. We were there in Goma by then, and we had to run from our home, and we ran to Rwanda. So that's a memory I also have. So when you think about all those things, losing a parent, going through the volcano, and just living in a life that to me was a little hard, for my mom especially, going through that season of losing a husband, and she is still young and she has 7 kids. There was a lot of resilience that she had to go through, and to really see another day. It's a story of faith and resilience, and she talks about it that if it was not for God, I would basically have died.
So you guys have left Goma because of that volcano that happened?
It was not because of the volcano. The volcano happened probably a year after my dad passed. I may have it wrong, the memories, but not because of the volcano. But we left because we were pursuing a better life.
Okay.
It was a strategic move to pursue a better life, basically.
This was after your dad's death?
That's after my dad's death. This is after the volcano. And then my mom decided to uproot us from Congo and
So Rwanda
to Uganda. To Uganda.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that.
Of course, man.
So you mentioned, that as a young man, you wrote down your dreams, of ministry and business you wanted to do. So, but you saw them happening back home in Africa, really. So what was that original vision you had for yourself before the America was even on the horizon?
I'm a firm believer in writing down your vision and your dreams. I'm a firm believer in that. And I believe in what Habakkuk says, that write the vision down and make it plain. So I do believe in that. However, growing up, at 9 years old, even growing up in Uganda, what stands out the most is we were poor. We didn't have a lot. And so when you are poor, really, you don't have the opportunity to dream. All you need is to survive the next day. And I also think, dreaming is a privilege. Like having a dream and saying, I want to bring this to fruition is a privilege. You might not realize it, but a lot of people in the world do not have dreams. All they want is, let me feed my stomach, let me go to bed today, and if I wake up another day, praise be to God. And life continues like that. But if you can come to a place where you are not just in survival mode, but you can even dream and plan for tomorrow, it's almost like you've started living. And so, yes, I did have dreams that I wrote down as a young man. I I saw them happening in Africa. I saw them happening around me. And then when I moved to the United States, I do believe that's when I started dreaming, because I could see possibilities. And so I did write some of the things that I wanted to do. I wrote that I wanted to be in business. It was a prayer that I wanted to be in business, but I also wanted to be in ministry.
So at 9 years old, you were living in a foreign country already. So tell me how that was for you. We're living in Uganda.
So living in Uganda, as a kid, you are really excited about experiences. At 9 years old, I was excited. Like when we just got there, I was excited to try how is this Uganda. And so I remember our mom, first and foremost, she found a church that we became part of. It was called Redeemed Life Church. It's still there. So we joined that church. That's where we never left that church. So that's our home church since I was 9 years old when we got to Uganda until I left when I was 22. I went to school in Uganda. After some time, I started seeing Uganda as my home. So yes, Uganda to me was Goma and Congo. They were like I was brought to life in Congo, but I experienced life in Uganda.
Awesome. In 2015, you arrived in the United States as a refugee with a family of 7. So describe the weight of that moment, being 22 years old at that time and stepping off the plane into a new world with your entire family, looking for a way forward. I mean, you've never left Africa before. So I just want to know about that. Yeah.
First and foremost, it was exciting, the thought of leaving Uganda, because I knew I was being given an opportunity to dream and to do something for myself. And so I remember getting into the plane, and I sat in it, and I'm like, is this plane going to take off? I needed to take off before things change. So we get up, and I'm like, we are in the air and we are flying. We flew Emirates. It was my first time on a flight.
Okay, very scared.
No, I wasn't scared. No, I wasn't scared.
You decided to leave.
No, I decided to leave. I'm like, if I die, I die in a flight. That's better. But anyways, I remember getting out of that flight and the thought of knowing that I'm in a new place, a new country, and looking at everybody that was around me, the people that were in this country. To me, it felt like everybody was fast. Everybody was moving fast. The cars were moving fast. The people were moving fast. The people were talking fast. I couldn't understand it. These mixed emotions. It was a shock. There was these mixed emotions. I was excited to come here, and then I come and I couldn't understand, at our airports, people, it's like outside, it's like a party. There's a lot of people waiting. There's people, taxi drivers trying to take you. But here, no, nobody's there. So it's a mixed feeling of excitement and shock all in one place. And it took me a while for me to actually feel at home. I always felt like I was in a foreign place. Yeah.
So you guys are trying to look for a better life coming here, but still, yeah. I mean, of course, you have a homesick because you've never lived outside of the continent. You've never lived outside of that area, right? But you were here, you're fighting like almost two different conflicts within you. You want to be here, but you're homesick. Tell me about that. How was that for you?
It's actually, it takes time for you to fully adjust because your mind is still thinking in terms of home. Your currency hasn't adjusted. You're still thinking in currency of home. I remember this one time. So I went to buy a phone. They tell me it's at $250. Now, what I know back home, what do? We say, I have 150. So I go and the guy tells me it's $250. I tell him, well, I have 150. And he asks me, why? I'm like, no, but I have 150. And I'm like, no, but it's 250. So I was trying to bargain, but here it's a set price. So this guy, we were all confused. I was confused. Why is this guy not reducing the price? Why this guy is, and he's confused. Why am I
upping the price up? Yeah.
So that there's a shock right there. And other things happen, like going to work and trying to communicate and nobody can understand what you're saying. I came from a place where they thought I spoke good English. I came to America and I realized I actually didn't know how to speak English. and ask myself, well, how do I do this? It's a mixture of, I want to be back home. I wish I could live in America, but live back home. It's a feeling that I can't explain.
How
It
long
took
did it
time.
take you to adjust?
I can't put a time on adjustment, and I cannot even point to a time when I was fully adjusted. I think there are things that will help you live in a place and call it home. Really, home is a place that you're used to, a place that you're familiar with, a place that has relationships and friendships. And so I think as time went on, as I started working, started getting a paycheck, starting to know my way about in San Diego, starting to make friends, being connected to a church, starting to go to the gym here and there, um, knowing how to drive on these flyovers and freeways. I think with time, I can't point to a specific time where I felt like I fully adjusted. Even now, I don't feel like it's fully there. But now I'm comfortable where I am.
So, landing in the US is a core memory for every immigrant. I have my own, you know, memory when I landed here, right? So, I think you might probably share this, but I wanted to be specific a little bit. So, what was the first thing that made you think, I am no, I am not in Africa anymore?
Man, actually, a lot of things happen, and I'm not in Africa. But let me. But this is one of the things that I knew I wasn't in Africa. So I I remember my very first job was at Papa Lake. Papa Lake, I interviewed for this job. They heard the way I talked and interacted, and they're like, I think this guy will be a very good fit to be front of the house instead of being in the kitchen. And so, but I went to interview for the kitchen role. They told me, no, I think you'll be good in the front. I said, sure. But one of the things that they encouraged us to do was to chit chat. Chit chat is basically when a customer comes in, you don't just give them their order and they leave, you engage in conversation. And so, me trying to engage in conversations with people that are from here, and I'm like trying to tell them a simple thing, and they go like, huh? It felt frustrating, and I'm like, I don't speak English. I can't speak English. And so I stopped talking. So then I realized, no, this is not where, um, this is not home. I'm not home.
Were you like very frustrated?
Oh yeah, it's frustrating. There's a time when
Want to quit?
customers not quitting. I never wanted. I needed. Quitting was never part of the deal.
Quitting was never part of
No,
it.
no, 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 no. I needed the money, but I remember on many occasions people would come into the store and I didn't want to talk to them. Like I just didn't want to go and serve them. Not because I didn't want to serve them per se, but because I didn't want to have that uh, weird interaction where they do not understand what I'm saying. And I'm doing everything I can to be understood.
So, do you think that they, I mean, I have experienced mine too, for you trying to make sure that they understand you. Do you also think that there was some other sort of effort from the customer's part to also understand you? Do you ever feel that way?
I don't think a lot of them wanted to understand. They wanted me to understand them. So I think it was in that way. And the reason why they wanted me to understand them is because they're the ones who came to me. I'm the one offering the service. So I'm the one selling a product. And so they want to be understood. So I understand that part because I'm the one giving the service, the interaction. But some of them actually did try to. You could see it like, no, 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 tell me, what are you saying? What are you trying to say? I'm like, I've said it, but you still don't get it. So maybe next time.
Yeah, we speak English, but we all have our own dialects. We have our tribes because a lot of people just see Africa, oh, this is Congo, okay, this is Nigeria, okay, this is Ghana, okay. But in those countries, there are a lot of tribes. And those a lot of tribes, to some extent, they all have their own languages, they have their tongue. Of course, we learn English, how to speak English in school, but when you come here, you realize that people don't even really know that there are tribes, and that also have some sort of influence on how we speak, you know? So, I think because of that, sometimes I feel like we almost have to put in a lot of effort to want them to understand us naturally because you're in their space or you're in the environment, you know. But oftentimes I have experienced that myself, having for people to understand me. But sometimes people just don't understand. I'm like, okay, so be it, you know.
So be it.
Yeah, let's just move on, you know.
Yeah, it's
So it's frustrating, can be frustrating sometimes
very, very.
for immigrants.
That was
really.
actually one of the things that frustrated me a lot
Yeah.
for a while.
So you started at this restaurant, Papa Leko,
Yes.
as a server,
Yes.
then manager,
Assistant.
assistant,
Yes.
then assistant manager.
Yes.
Okay. And now you own the keys.
I do.
Awesome. So when you were clearing tables in those early years, did you see yourself as the future owner or were you just trying to survive the day?
No, I didn't see myself as the owner of the place. When I started working there, for me, it was a privilege to even work because I wanted to work. Like, one of the things that I wanted was to work. Like, do anything, but no, give me a job. Like, get me to work. So I wanted to work. One of the funniest things that happened actually is when I got here, people would call off a lot. So they would call sick and say, I can't make it. And so usually people would want people to cover their shifts. And so they'd say, hey, Bora, can you cover this shift? And I'm like, can you help me cover this shift? So a friend would ask. And I said, sure. And so I would come and work. And then a person would say, hey, Bora, can you cover this shift? But me, I thought I was helping them. I didn't know that even when I cover somebody's shift, I'm being paid. So I realized after some time that they were paying me to cover people's shifts. And so I said, please call me anytime anybody needs to.
So you wanted to cover more shift.
I covered.
You were praying now, okay, call me
Call
to
me
cover
if you
shift.
need any shift covered, I'll be here.
Because you need to make the money.
There's a time I went like 3 months and I worked 7 days a week for 3 months. And to me, it was fine. It was, and really, when I moved here, after like maybe a month, they cut my public funding because I had applied for stuff and I had started making a little money and they're like, no, you can't be on public funding. So I wanted that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here you are, you own Papa Leko.
Yes.
I mean, why did that come to be?
To clarify, I own Papa Leko Kensington. So Papa Leko is a brand. And I wanted to know that.
Share more light on that, yeah, so people understand.
So Papa Leko is a brand. So Papa Leko, by the time I started working, they only had 2 locations. When I started working, it was in Hillcrest, and that's where I got hired. And then after like a year, they opened another location, and that location was called Papa Leko Kensington. And I was one of the employees that was chosen to be part of the opening group of that location. So I came and started working in that group. Very first day that it opened, I remember we come and it was a busy time. We were selling pizza and sandwiches and salads. It was amazing. I think that day I worked for like 12 hours. It was a long day. And it kept on happening. And in me, I was not so much interested about the money that I was getting, but the experience was also good. Like I enjoyed talking to people and selling stuff and fixing stuff. And lo and behold, the same location, the very first time that I came to that location is the same place that we are recording this, and I own it.
How did that come to be?
Afterwards, I think I was doing a good job. I think so. They promoted me.
So you means you did not think so. You know you were doing a good job. I mean, a lot of people were calling you to cover shoots. So
No. But to me, I was just working, like doing the best I could, and I was not even expecting a promotion. I was not even working for a promotion. I just showed up and I did my job to the best of my knowledge. Like I did it. I didn't call off. I was here. They needed me. I was here. So I think I was reliable. But I also didn't think that I was going to be promoted. I really never thought about it. Like I didn't think they would ever think about me, per se, and I'm being honest. But then one time I get a meeting and the owner of Papa Leko wants to sit with me. I'm like, what does he want to tell me? So I did what Joseph did when he was leaving jail. The Bible says he shaved up, he dressed well because he was going to meet who? The king. And so that's what I did. I put on my best coat. I'm like, I'm meeting I put on my best shoes. I put on my best pants and I went, I'm like, hey, Francesco, how you doing? And I realized that he's actually giving me a promotion. I couldn't believe it. But the promotion that he was giving me was for a store that was the best performing store in the company. That's in Little Italy, the busiest store by then. And I did that for 5 years. After 5 years, I was ready to move on. I wanted to change, but I didn't want to be in the same line of work. And so through that, I there's a friend that I asked who owned a postal place. Hey, I want to move on, but I want to do something for myself. And so this guy asked me, hey, I'm actually selling my business. Do you want to buy it? Just like that. I asked him, and he tells me I'm selling my business. We get a time, we meet, we look at the numbers, and the numbers were good. And we started the process of buying that location. I was able to secure funding, and we bought the postal place. It's a mailbag box store called Go Postal in 2022. And so in that, I had started working at Cox Communications. Somehow I found a job there, and I was still doing part-time at Papaleco. So, and then I was training to work in this postal place. So there's a time I was doing 3 things a day. So I would go to Cox in the morning.
There's this thing, I'll post it there. There's this thing they say immigrants does. We don't stay in one place. You come to this country like, whoa, everything is like good here. Like, I need to do all of this at once. Was that part of the thing driving you?
It's still part of it.
Oh, it's still happening.
I think so. For some time, I have to stop myself. But yeah, no, there are times when I would go to Cox in the morning, or work until 3 p.m. I leave Cox, I go to the postal place because I had to train to learn the business for like 2 hours at least every day. So I go from 3 to 5. And then after 5, I go to Papaleco. I work a few other hours, like from 5:30 to like 10 until they closed. And so that would be sometimes my day. So I would have a full day. Thankfully, I had no kids. My wife was not here, so I could do it. After buying the location, I quit from the Cox. I left Cox. After that, I also left Papaleco, and I focused on building this business. Another thing that I would also talk about is you should never break bridges.
It was like your mentor, right?
Yes, he was good to me. There's a lot of people who leave places of work, and they think they will never need that bridge. And even if you ever do, as a person of faith, I do believe that we treat people well as children of God, and so I don't have to destroy the bridge that God maybe will use at some point in my life. And so even when you're quitting a job, don't just leave the same day and leave. No. Give them time. Give them 2 weeks. Listen to them. Listen to their needs. They are human beings as you. And so I kept on going back with espresso. I go back to my shop. And so this morning I came from my espresso, and after drinking it, he pulls me on the side and he says, Bora, I have something for you. He said, would you consider buying Papaleco Kensington? And I said, sure, we can talk about it. Just as a business owner, we can talk about it. Let's sit down, let's have a meeting. And but I think I'll be interested. But I would tell you this to even pull you back a little bit. A year before that, I had sat down with a friend of mine. He's called Andrew. We went for coffee, and I said, I want to be in coffee business. And he said he also wanted to be in coffee business. And so I started praying for a coffee shop. So I wrote that dream down. I can go back to a book, and I see where I wrote that and the conversation that we had.
You said at the beginning you like writing things down.
I like writing things down. And why is it important for us to write them down? When you write something down, you can go back and say, you know what? God has been faithful. I can track the things that I prayed for. I'm now living. I can true. David says this in Psalms 103, that bless the Lord, O my soul, and forget not all his benefits. Serving the Lord comes with benefits. And sometimes it is very possible for us as human beings to forget those benefits because things go on day and day. And so writing those things down allows you to go back and say, God, you've been faithful. Even though you're going through some hard situations, but you're reminded, you know what? I'm living through some of the things that God has done. So going to that place and this man asking me to buy his coffee shop, of course, he didn't know the story behind it. But leaving that, I remember this walking down from that shop. I was shaken because I couldn't believe it. that actually the prayer is coming to pass. And I go back and I tell my wife, you cannot believe what just happened. She says, what happened? Francesco just asked me to buy Papaleko Kensington. And I know it's mine. And the same friend that we sat together in that coffee shop and we talked about that dream, I call him and I tell him, bro, you will never believe what happened. What happened? We have a coffee shop. You want to be my partner? And he said, I will be your partner, bro. And so since then, we became partners in business. So we own Papaleko Kensington together from a meeting that we sat down in the morning, 7 a.m. in the morning. We talked about coffee. And lo and behold, it came to pass. Awesome. That's how I ended up owning the keys.
Yes, that's a good story. That was a good story. I mean, being an immigrant and also a Black person in America too, there comes with some challenges, right? I just wanted to know from you, what are some of those challenges you had to face as an immigrant business owner?
First and foremost, I think there's a lot of things that you have to learn. Like being an immigrant itself comes with a shock, but also you're faced with a lot of things that you have to learn. Like, let me give you an example. Owning a postal place came with a lot of challenges. We don't have addresses where we come from. We don't send stamps. We don't send mail. Like, let me send you a letter and you will get it. No. So now I come here. I don't even know what a stamp is. I don't even know how to write an address, a correct address, an American address. But then I'm thinking about myself. Now you are the one trying to own a business in America. Nah, you can't. It's challenge. Like you have to overcome a lot of obstacles. First of all, in the systems that you don't know. Some of the things you actually don't know. You've never used a stamp before. You've never mailed anything before. You never had an address before. Now everything has an address. So that comes with its own challenges. Then learning the taxation system in America. Knowing you have to file taxes. You have to know business taxes. You have to know what to write off and what not to write off. There's a lot of learning that you have to do. Then knowing how to handle Americans. They're a different breed of people. No, serious. They're different. In where I come from, when you walk into somebody's shop, it's almost like that person is helping you to sell you something because they're giving you something. In America, when somebody walks into your shop, they are helping you to walk into your shop. And so they feel entitled. And so knowing how to navigate all those things while also trying to grow a business comes with a lot of challenges. So you sit down and realize you have a lot of learning to do. The door has to be a certain size. You cannot have this here because the clearance for the handicap has to be observed. Little things that you never think about, but they are. And any mistake could cause you a lawsuit and you're out of business. So learning all those things and at the same time trying to develop and grow yourself becomes challenging. It could be easier if you grew up in the same system and now you're trying to own the business in the same system. It's almost like you have an idea, but coming into a new system and doing it comes with a lot of challenges. Not only that, then you also have an aspect of communicating with even your clients. And one of the things that I really had to grow up with to even understand is building structures, even for myself. I didn't grow up in a structured way. A day comes, I do it. If I don't, I'll do it tomorrow. Or being time conscious. That was a stretch. It's still a stretch for me. Because time, I would say, we have time. So I think a lot of things come into play because you are dealing in a different culture. And so sometimes it's stressful. You have to work extra. You have to put in a lot of more work. You have to think about things that some people are given to them.
Yeah, well, I also think too, there are some other people that are not also immigrant. They also go through almost similar things to try to figure out how to, for instance, file taxes.
Yeah.
Or how to this legal stuff, all of those things too. But for you as an immigrant, if they are in level 5, understanding, you need to try and work to get to level 10 so that you can understand that because you are not born in the system.
Exactly.
So that's what sometimes people don't really put into consideration as well when they live with a lot of African immigrants, really. Yeah. So oftentimes Africans come here with, high degrees of or status, only to start at the bottom.
Yes.
So did you ever have to swallow your pride to survive in those early years?
To be honest with you, I had no pride to swallow. I didn't go to a lot of school back home. So I finished, we call it A level. To me, it was always about work. I wanted to work.
Yeah.
And so I had no pride to swallow. But I do understand for the people that come here with a lot of degrees, because it usually does not translate here. It doesn't translate. But also the thing that I had to, like, I remember in the early years trying to find a job and even learning what a resume is. Learning what is a resume? We call it CV, maybe because of the British
Yes,
influence.
British, yeah.
But here they call it a resume, and they're like, a resume is this and this and this, and this is how you write it. And then trying to put experience that you have for your first job in America, because every resume has experience. But what experience am I going to put? I ended up putting what I was doing in Kampala. So it comes with challenges.
So you're not just a business owner, you are also an associate pastor.
Is that?
So how do you maintain your faith during those 11 years of the grind, okay, when things were difficult or when the African spirit was tested?
So if I take you back a little bit, I told you I wrote things down that I wanted to do in my life. Number one, I knew I wanted to be in ministry. That was actually the first thing that I knew. But growing up, I saw that each and every person that was in ministry was suffering. Their family, their children, they didn't have school, and they started to be beggars. And I did not want that for my family. I didn't want that for my kids. And so I prayed, God, I see you've put entrepreneurship in me. I believe you placed it there for a reason. Bless me with the business. So I started praying for business. The business was as a result of me being in ministry. So I wanted to be in ministry. That was my drive. But I also wanted to have business. It was like when Paul talks about, I wanted to work with my hands so that you cannot take away my boasting. But the boasting that Paul had was he could make tents. So my tent making is the businesses that I run so that I could be able to preach the gospel for free. And I do this without pay. Is it okay if somebody is paid? Absolutely. It's okay. The Bible does not discourage that. But as for me, that was my conviction, and also the things that I believe that God was calling me into, but also looking at business as an extension of ministry.
So, you talked a little bit about this. The next question I want to ask you about, how you were like working here, doing this here, studying, doing almost like 3 or 5 different things at the same time, But now it's a little bit like kind of like controlled for you. And, you run a restaurant and also a poster annex, correct? So where does that capacity come from, really? And is that the drive you brought from Goma? Or is this something you developed here by the time you saw the opportunities in the US?
I think the capacity comes from God. I do believe that. And the reason I'm not trying to be cliche, that this comes from God. I'm saying it honestly. I know myself. I know the times that I'm performing at my best are the times when my fellowship and connection with God is solid. My thinking is clear. My emotions are governed well. I can be at home with my wife and we have a great relationship, and I go at work and I kill it. Why? Because my fellowship and communion with God is intact. When that is messed up, where we have seasons in life when we are going through hard times, sometimes we call that in theology the dark season of the soul, the dark night of the soul. When you're going through seasons of your prayer life is weak, your commitment to Christ is weak, stuff like that. You realize that everything is affected. That my communion with my wife, I feel it becomes a chore. The Bible talks about this. It talks about, the fear of God is the beginning of wisdom. If we have our priorities in order, every other thing becomes easy. But if we have our priorities out of order, things become hard. They even become chores. So I think the capacity comes from God. And of course, God gives you the ability to develop it, to cultivate it.
You told me that, you're looking at, you know, going back home and giving back home. But when we say home, we mean where you're from, Africa, right? So I just wanted to know, what the why behind it, why?
You know, part of what I do believe that God has called us, especially as men, is to work. And men become they get to a dark place or a bad place if they can't work. And especially if they do not understand what work is. I want to empower men through providing work. Why do I say that? Is because I know where I come from. You cannot expect people to dream, as I said, if they don't even have the capacity to dream. So what is the drive behind it is to provide people with something to do so that they can have the ability to expand their minds beyond what is possible. So I believe that's my calling. It's part of ministry. It's part of us making this world a better place. And that's our mandate as believers, as people who are of the kingdom. And so in me, what he has gifted me with is to maybe start a business, maybe a ministry, but a business that where people can come, they can work, they can exercise their gifts, and they have funds or money to provide for their families. I don't so much believe in handing out people stuff, giving people money. I think every time you give somebody money, you are limiting them. You're doing them a disservice. They might not know it, but you're doing them a disservice.
I mean, when you think back, to your life, your journey from Goma to Uganda to coming to America, stepping out of plane, everything is fast in front of you, then took your time to settle in. Then you were working as a clearer and all of that. Now you own the key, you're an associate pastor, you have a wife, you have 2 kids. So when you look back to your life, and all the journey, so what comes to your mind?
To be honest with you, I said, I think I've just scratched the surface. That's what comes to mind, because sometimes when God does stuff in your life, he opens your mind to what's possible. It's almost like, when God tells Abraham that stand on this mountain and see, and wherever your eyes can see, I have given you. So when I look at how far I've come, when I look at my beautiful kids, my amazing wife, and I look at the businesses that we now own in 10 years of us living in the United States, I do believe there's a lot more that is around the corner. I look at what is behind me, and as Paul said, I strain forward to what lies ahead. I believe there's a lot more. There's a lot of things that I still need to learn. Managing different businesses, managing people of different cultures. My time is limited. I have to study a lot. I have to read a lot to educate myself. But no, I think when I think about it, I think of there's more yet to come.
So how do you balance being a giant in business while staying humble in your ministry at Coastal Line Church, Community Church?
How do I balance? I go back to this thing. I tell people my first job is ministry. I just happen to be doing business. I've been called to further the kingdom of God, and even I work and my businesses. I do that from a faith standpoint, so that keeps the balance.
So you've been here for like 10 years plus now, So when did you stop feeling like a refugee and start feeling like an architect of your community?
I actually do think the moment I became, I've never thought about this really well, but I think the moment I actually became an assistant manager, that was a time that I realized that, oh, there's a switch that happened. It's funny, when I became an assistant manager, you know how much they raised my wage? By $1. By $1.
That's good. That's good compared to where you're coming from.
It's good. It's good. But I was so happy. I was like, wait, I became an assistant manager. And I started doing it with all my heart. So I think that was like a transition from become almost like engaging in the culture. And then from that, I realized, things are possible.
So what is your unspoken word of encouragement for the next generation arriving today?
There's, I think I would say this. Number one, do not be intimidated. There's a lot of things that could intimidate you, especially with your inadequacies. First of all, maybe you don't speak good English. That might limit you to say, you know what? Maybe I can't do it because I don't speak good English. You have to remember this. English is not the test of intelligence. You have to remember that being fluent in a language that does not translate into intelligence, and it also does not translate into wisdom. Remember that. Also, remember that even though you are an immigrant, you also have to remember your place where you are. It means you have a lot of things to overcome. You can overcome them, but it's going to take some work. It's going to take some late nights. It might take you to actually be consistent in reading. It might take you to be part of a community where you engage yourself in the culture to understand it. You might need to get friends that understand this culture, that know how to get around. But whatever it is, I want to tell you, do not be intimidated. Why? Because as a person of faith, again, I go back to that because that has been the driving thing for me is I do believe that greater is he that is in me than the one that is in the world, that I've been given everything that pertains to life and godliness. Wake up every day and say, what is it that God wants to do with my life? And go do it. You fail, go back, strategize and go back again. But do not be intimidated. If you have it within you and if you've been called to it, there's a God in heaven that can bring it to fruition.
I have nothing to add other than to say thank you so much. And I also just really, I'm so happy for one thing that as an African, having a business here where you're seeing different people of culture, color, coming in, it's a thing of joy for me, to experience that and to see. So I am very proud of you, as an African brother, I am very, very proud of you. And I'm proud of your achievement. I know it was not easy. There's a lot of, sleepless nights, a lot of, pain, something that I went through all of this, right? And I am just so happy to like have this moment to like chat with you about it, about your journey. And also just very happy about what you are doing in this community, and it's worth celebrating. And I'm here this is my way of celebrating you. So thank you so much for your time today.
This has been amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah.